Hey everyone, and welcome back to Nutty Chess Tips with me, Nutty T. Today we're going to continue with the Jobava London system. This time though with the Bishop D6 line. So, as usual, check it out. First moves on the table: D4, Knight F6, Knight C3, D5, Bishop F4, and as you can see from the highlighted arrows, I've done these in the past so you can check them out on the channel. The next move, E6, we simply go in with the knight to B5. In the last video I did was the knight A6 line. I'll link that in the cut above. But today we're going to concentrate on Bishop D6. We just take off this bishop when they take back with the pawn. Now this is always a weak pawn. Keep this in mind. We just go E3. The most common moves I've seen are castling, Queen B6 and Knight C6. First off, we'll go castle. We just solidify the centre with C3. Now they usually move the rook to E8, develop the knight to F3. If they ever push the pawn, take with our pawn and then take with either the knight or the bishop. So that isn't a good move. So what they usually do in this situation is Knight C6, and now they can push a pawn. If we just think Bishop F3, this is a bad move. This is losing because they can now push the pawn. Yes, we can take the pawn, but then they take the pawn and we have to move the bishop. We move the bishop and then they pin the bishop and the knight. So that is not good for us. So let's go back. Here, make sure this bishop is safe and we go H3, looking to put the bishop on H2. So when they do finally push E5, we just slide the bishop back to H2. They usually push to E4. We move the knight to D2. And now the most common move I've seen here, bishop to E6 or bishop to E5. If E6, I like this move, which is Queen B3. If they move the queen to block, we simply take off this queen, and when they take the queen, look at this weak pawn. So now we can take the weak pawn. If the rook threatens the bishop, we can now threaten the rook with Bishop C7, and now we're also eyeing up a free pawn. So we're just winning here. So let's go back. Obviously, if they do Bishop F5, again, I like this move, and we're just repeating the same scenario. So if they block, we simply take. When they take, again, we have this weak pawn. So always keep that in mind. Let's go back. Now, what if they go Knight C6 first? Now, whenever they go Knight C6, I like to bring the knight to F3. When they castle, we solidify our centre with C3. What if they do this move with Knight H5? Now what I like to do here is just go Bishop G5, threatening the queen. When they cover with the pawn, we now have this move, Bishop H4. If they move the pawn to G5, we move the bishop to G3. If they take, we simply take with the H pawn, and look at this. Now in a game I had this and my opponent just went Queen B6. I went Queen C2, and now we're eyeing up checkmate in one. So my opponent here went Rook F7. But now we have this move, which is Kamikaze! Rook takes h7. When they take back with the rook, now we go queen g6. When they cover with the rook, we move the queen to e8. And now there is only one move the king can make, and that is h7. Now we come in with the bishop and check. When they move the pawn, and we castle queenside. Now, as you can see, mate is unavoidable. If they make some random moves such as queen d8, we simply go in for the kill and go skadoosh, checkmate with the rook on h1. Let's go back. So what if they go queen b6? Well, if they go queen b6, we have this move, which is rook b1. If they go in for the check with the queen on a5, we simply solidify the centre, and if they get greedy now and take the pawn, bishop takes on d6. They often move the knight to e4 to threaten the bishop. We simply move the bishop to f4. Now if they castle here, we have this move, which is f3. Just kicking this knight. When the knight moves, we just come in with the bishop to d6. Iron up this rook. Now if they move the rook to threaten the bishop, we have this nice little move, which is bishop a3. And now the engine move is actually bishop d7. If they move the bishop to d7, we move the rook into a1, and then they come in with the bishop. And now if we take the bishop, we lose the rook with a check. So that is not good for us. We take the queen, and then when they take with the bishop, we take with the king. And as you can see, we're just a piece up here. So let's go back. Now what if they don't see this bishop move and just go knight c6? We have this beautiful move, boom, and the queen is trapped. So let's go back. What if your opponent goes g5 here? Now there's two moves you can make here. Bishop takes b8, and then when they take, we simply take the knight and we're a piece up. But there's another move, pawn takes. And if the pawn takes the bishop, we then move the pawn to e5. If they just develop, we can then move the bishop in to d3. If they then take the pawn, we have this move, which is queen g4. If they move, we go queen h4. And now it's mate in one. They cannot do a thing about it. If they just protect with the pawn with f5, we just go en passant. When they cover, take the rook, and look at this. There is nothing they can do to stop it. Queen takes b1. We take with the bishop, and then as you can see, they cannot do anything. We just simply go skadoosh. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check out the other videos, and it's nice.